Ready? Communication, communication, comes in all different forms. For humans, it can be body language, speaking, or spelling. Animals have various various ways of communicating. Two, both through water and air. Okay? Let's spell air. To the left near the window, A, good job. To the right near me, I, good job. Up on that, thank you. To the bottom near me, R, good job. Let's spell body. At the top towards the window, B, good job. Hand back, good job. At the bottom, good job. O. Hand back. Thank you. At the top towards me, D, good job. At the bottom towards me, good job. Y, hand back. Let's spell speaking. At the top towards the window, S, good job. At the bottom in the middle, P, good job. At the bottom towards the table, E, great job. At the top towards the table, A, great job. At the top towards the table, K, great job. At the bottom towards me, I, good job. Back, thank you. At the bottom towards the table, N. At the bottom in the middle, G. Good job speaking. Okay. Let's spell language. At the top in the middle, L. Great job. At the top, good job, A. At the bottom to the table, N. Great job. At the bottom in the middle, great job. At the top in the middle, good job. At the top towards the table, A, good job. At the bottom in the middle, G, good job. At the bottom towards the table, E, language, great job. Okay? On to the next story. You did very good. High five. Okay? You need a break? Stand up a bit. You ready for the next one? Come on, that's it. Okay, right back. Feet down on the floor. Good job. Okay. Echolocation is the use of sound waves to communicate. Echolocation, ECHOLOCATION, is the use of sound waves to communicate and determine the location of certain objects. Many people know that bats communicate in this way, but did you know that this is how dolphins, DOLPHINS, communicate too? Let's spell no. At the top towards the table, K, good job. At the bottom towards the table, N, good job. At the bottom towards the table, O, good job. At the bottom towards the table, W, great job. At the top towards the table, S, good job. Sit back, all the way back, all the way back. Now, let's spell. Can you take your arms out? Great job. Ready? At the top in the middle, C, great job. At the top towards the table, E, great job. At the bottom, wait, arms back, thank you. At the bottom toward, arms back. At the bottom towards me, you gotta look at the board, right? Look at the board, okay? Let's try again. Arms back, look here. Good job, wait, okay. At the bottom towards me, R, are you looking? Look, R, good job. Look at the board. At the top to the middle. Good job. At the top towards, look at the board. You gotta look. You gotta look. On that, look. At the bottom towards the table. Good job. At the bottom towards me. I. Good job. At the bottom towards the table. And good job. Let's spell objects. Keep down. Thank you. All right. Objects. At the bottom to look at the two. O. Look here. Look on back. Look here. O. Good job. You sit back from it. Thank you. At the top towards the table. B. Look. Eyes. Good job. At the top, arm back. At the top towards the table. Good job. No, arm back. Look at the board. Look at the board. Look. All right. At the bottom towards the table. Look here. E. Good job. At the top in the middle. C. Good job. At the top towards the table. Eyes on the board. T. Good job. At the top towards the table. S. Good job. Let's spell determine. Okay. At the top towards me. D. Good job. At the bottom towards the table. E. Good job. Up and back. At the top towards the table. T. Good job. Okay. At the bottom towards the table. E. Great job. At the bottom towards me. R. Good job. At the top towards me. M. Great job. At the bottom towards me. I. Excellent. At the bottom towards the table. Good. N. Great job. And at the bottom towards the table. E. Great job. Determine. Excellent. Very, very good. Dolphins have a distinct whistle, W-H-I-S-T-L-E, or click, they use when they are communicating with other dolphins. These sound waves bounce off an object and back to the dolphin, allowing them to be interpreted as echoes, E-C-H-O-E-S. Okay? Let's spell back. At the top to the good job. B. Arm back. Good job. At the top towards the table. A. Great job. At the top in the middle. Good job. Wait, hold on. At the top towards the table. K. Good job. Let's see. Let's spell objects. At the bottom towards the table. O. Great job. At the top towards the table. Good job. At the top towards the table. Great job. You look. Eyes. Good job. J. At the bottom towards the table. Look at the board. You gotta look. Eyes on the board. Eyes on the board. You ready? At the bottom towards the table. E. Great job. At the top in the middle. C. Great job. At the top and towards the table. T. Excellent. Let's spell whistle. At the bottom towards the table. W. Great. At the bottom towards me. H. Good job. At the bottom towards me. I. Excellent. At the top towards the table. Look. Eyes on the board. Eyes on the board. S. Great job. At the top towards the table. T. Excellent. At the top in the middle. L. Excellent. At the bottom towards the table. E. Great job. Whistle. Let's spell bounce. Okay? Bounce. At the top towards the table. B. Great job. At the bottom towards the table, L, great job. At the top in the middle, good job. At the bottom towards the table, excellent. At the top in the middle, great job. And at the bottom towards the table, bounce, great job. E, sorry. Okay, one more. The evolution of dolphin communication via echolocation or sonar, SONAR, has many benefits, including survivor skills. Using sound waves, dolphins can detect where another animal is traveling, the potential size of an animal, or even how dense, D-E-N-S-E, the animal is. Okay? Let's spell size. Okay? At the top towards the table, S, great job. Arm back. At the bottom towards me, I. Let's see, eyes on the board. I. Good job. At the bottom towards me, Z. Good job. At the bottom towards the table, E. Excellent. Let's spell. Ready? Let's spell. Hold on. Let's spell skills. Feet down. Right? Feet down. Good. All the way back. All the way back. Good job. Feet down. Excellent. All right. Let feet down on the floor. Feet down on the floor. Good job. Ready? Come on. Let's sit. Come on. Ready? Okay. Let's spell skills. Okay. At the top towards the table. S. Good job. Come on. Sit down. Thank you. At the top towards the table. Thank you. Ready? Come on, feet down. Good job. Come on, feet down. High five. Good job. Come on. Sit down on the floor. Good job. Ready? K. At the top towards the table. K. Good job. At the left towards me. I. Good job. At the top in the middle. L, we're going to do that 2 times, double times, right? L, good job. At the top towards the table. At the top towards the table. Okay, let's try it. Ready? At the top towards the table. S, excellent. Skills. Let's spell survivor. Can you sit down for me? Can you sit down for me? Well, we have 2 more. There's 2 more. Come on. 2 more. Then we all done. Okay? Just 2 more. All right? Let's spell survival. Ready? Come on. Ready? At the top towards the table. S. Good job. At the top in the middle. Excellent. U. At the bottom towards me. Excellent. At the top towards me. Good job. At the bottom towards me. Look at the board. Hands back. Look at the board. Aye, good job. Okay. At the top towards me. D. Excellent. At the top towards the table. A. Excellent. At the top in the middle. L. Survival. Great job. 1 more. Then we're all done. Let's spell potential. Ready? P. Good job. P. Okay. At the bottom towards the table. O. Great job. At the top towards the table. Excellent. At the bottom towards the table. E. Good job. At the bottom towards the table. Great job. N. At the top towards the table. T. Good job. At the bottom towards me. Great job. At the top towards the table. Excellent. At the top in the middle. L. Great job. Potential. High five. Good job. All time.